Climbing the ladder with Paleozoic. Underdog deck got me feeling heroic. Can we get to Master singing this song? Maybe if the duels didn't take so long. Grass is best, needlebug nest.
Hello and welcome to the video, and today it's time for Paleozoic. And here we are already in Master 1 before the end of the song, even though the Paleozoic games take so long. But this time it's not my account, it's the account of a friend who made it to top 5% global with Paleozoic, which is absolutely incredible considering this is supposed to be an underdog deck. Huge shoutouts to Koch the Elf who sent me his Paleozoic replays that brought him to top 5% global. Really skilled player, really high level gameplay, as you would expect from someone in the top 5% global. And here you can see his final deck list. It's a 60 card list with grass, and I think during the climb to top 5% global he made a couple of changes and tested a couple of different ratios, for example the ratios for Dragon Laundry, and finally decided to play only one to have more mills with the reasoning. He is not playing Time-Tearing Morganite, maybe for budget reasons because this is an ultra rare that you don't play in any other serious decks, but there are also some mathematical reasons why Time-Tearing Morganite may not be as good as you might think. Anyways, he got the top 5% global, so that should prove that the deck can be really successful without Time-Tearing Morganite. Instead, he played a couple more draw traps, for example Hope for Escape combined with Balance of Judgment. And then there are some other tech cards in this list that may be very good in this specific format, but could be some other traps in different formats. For example Dimensional Barrier and the Blackout Loves. Both of these cards are absolutely insane against Tenpai Dragon, and the Blackout Loves also works if we mill the card. The extra deck seems pretty much standard. He is playing only one Anomalocaris, but one seems to be enough. And here you can see his match history from rating duels. Absolutely insane. 7-game win streak, 7 games won in a row with Paleozoic, the underdog deck. But it's not over yet. So he continued to play and got a couple more wins with Paleozoic and ended up with 10 wins and only 1 loss with Paleozoic, which is absolutely insane. Alright, now it's time to look into the Paleozoic games that brought them to top 5% global. And here we are in the first game. He won the coin toss, was able to decide to go first, and the opening hand looks absolutely cracked. So here we have Soldier Dragons, Reasoning and 3 traps. So all you could ask for as a Paleozoic player. And we normal summon, then Reasoning in case the opponent is Ash Blossom or Maxi, we get 1 free dragon from the deck. The opponent called level 2 for the Reasoning, which is the correct call. But Reasoning just milling a bunch of spells and traps is already so rough. So we have a Threatening Roar, a couple Paleos, more Paleos, and then his action rollback. And now we can copy basically any trap that we mill in the future. We hit Dragonmaid Laundry and the opponent called level 2, so no Dragonmaid Laundry special summon, just set for pass. Alright. And now opening of the Spirit Gates, chain Soldier Dragons, and the opponent chains admit defeat. What the fuck was that? So it was Yubel and the player was in a top 1000 global. And Yubel is supposed to be a really good deck and not to surrender against one single Soldier Dragon's activation. Whoa, okay, that was really fast. Let's see how fast the other games are. And here the opening hand looks even better, so here we have Soldier Dragons, Reasoning and Traptalizing Tune. So we start with the Tune to bait an Ash Blossom, and then no Ash but max on the Reasoning. We just chain Soldier Dragons, and then Reasoning resolves. The opponent called level 8? Level 8? Are you fucking kidding me? What on earth is that supposed to do? So you saw the Soldier Dragons, the Reasoning, and the Dragonmaid Laundry. At this point it's obvious that it's Paleo, and you are supposed to call level 2 against Paleozoic. Or level 12 if you absolutely want the Paleo player to special summon. But here, by calling level 8 we hit a backcheck that we can summon and use as a material for Sprite Elf. Even though we give the opponent maxi draws, let's see if the opponent can actually break this board. So opponent starting with Sanguine Kaiman, searching Dora. Then Dora, chain Soldier Dragons, chain Forbidden Droplet? What? Was it even needed? Yeah, the Droplet seemed kinda wasted. Okay, now Canadia on Chandra and then Dynamicious. But Tenpai is already fucked because we made Rise to Full Light, I think. And now it's time for Rise to Full Light. And BAM! He completely destroyed Tenpai Dragon. Oh yeah, this deck is such a hard counter against Tenpai Dragon. And the opponent surrendered. And here we are in the next game, and the Koch won the coin toss again, was able to decide to go first, and the opening hand looks playable. So here we have Tune, and then a couple of traps, Hope for Escape and Balance of Judgment. And he top decked into the perfect combination of Soul Dragons and Reasoning. Wow, that's insane. And now Reasoning again, and the opponent called level 1. You fool! You saw the Soldier Dragons! Why do you not call level 2? Anyways, free body for Gigantic Sprite gets hit with Ghost Ogre. But even with set free pass, Paleo has a solid setup for the next turns. The opponent starts with Spinny. We go Morella and then Shane Olino. And the transaction rollback on a Trap Trick, which is fantastic because Trap Trick gives us 2 Paleo activations, assuming we have 2 or more in the graveyard. And then the Rumor booked the Spinny to prevent the opponent from switching the Salamangreat field spell. Set 1 pass? What? How can Salamangreat not have any extenders? That's kind of surprising. Anyways, we can just go into Oberbinia and then Oberbinia, search another Morella, and then Morella could dump another rollback or any traps we want to copy with rollback. We chain Morella from the graveyard. And then Lean, return the banished transaction rollback, chain another Morella from the graveyard. Yeah, and now Paleo is cooking. We go into Cambroster and then Cambroster on the opponent's back row. I didn't even know that this was possible. Holy shit, I'm learning new stuff. So we go into Coral Anemone and then Coral Anemone, revive the Cambroster. And then Battle Phase, attack over the Spinny, attack with Cambroster directly, and then attack with Oberbinia, and then Tune, return Morella, and then roll back. And then Tune, discard Blackguard. Ah, this is so nasty. So we get a free interruption by discarding the Blackguard and 2 fresh new cards. Let's see what the opponent top decked. A Tarot top. Alright. And now Canadia, because the opponent doesn't seem to have any additional engine. Otherwise we would have started with a Tarot top. What? Silent Mining? What is that? Why on earth did you not use Silent Mining in the previous turn? I don't get it. So I'm not an expert on Salamangreat, but this seems kinda wrong. Elemental Burst, boom, everything gone. And now it's just a matter of time how fast Paleo can finish this game. So we go Tune again, return transaction rollback, and then Oberbinia, search Lean, and then Lean, return transaction rollback, chain Olino, and then Needlebug Nest, we chain a Paleo from the graveyard. And now that's more than enough bodies needed to go for game. So battle phase, attack, attack, attack. And we completely destroyed Salamangreat. Wow. Yeah, the play with Cambroster removing the back row from the opponent was absolutely clean. I didn't even think about plays like that. And here we are in the next game. And the Koch was able to decide to go first again, but this time the opening hand looks absolutely terrible. I was actually going to complain about the opening hands being too good, but this time we have a horrible opening hand. So 3 backcheck, we can only normal summon 1 of them per turn and then just set 1 pass. Alright, now let's see if the backcheck excavate 3 hit a trap card. The opponent starts with the Divine of the Herald, so it's Voice's Voice. What? It's Drytron, not Voice's Voice. Why on earth would you play Drytron over Voice's Voice in rating duels, especially when you are close to top 5% global? Anyways, backcheck, excavate the Rumor, set the Rumor from the deck, and then Drytron Ritual spell. I have no idea if this is the correct Drytron line. The Rumor, book everything, and now set to pass? What? What is that? I can't believe Drytron folds to a single Daruma. Yeah, and now we top deck Reasoning, and now the opponent is fucked because we have Reasoning, and the opponent called level 1. Oh, you bozo, why do you call level 1 against Paleozoic? You are supposed to call level 2. And now Paleozoic gets a countless free mills and a level 2 body, assuming we hit a level 2 body. And we cannot hit a backcheck because all backchecks are currently in the hand, which is kind of funny. So reasoning, almost milling the entire deck. And then finally we hit Soldier Dragons. At the Trap Trick, chain Marella from the graveyard. Set another Marella. Yeah, Trap Trick is absolutely broken in this deck because we get 2 Paleo summons from one single card. And now Marella, dump Elemental Burst, transaction rollback, copy Elemental Burst, boom! And now Opabinia. Okay, not going for the Anomalocaris. But normal 7 backcheck and the opponent surrendered. Wow, I did not expect him to win this one with such a terrible brickhand. So he managed to overcome brickhands, and defeated decks are supposed to have lots of gas, for example Drytron. Which is kinda surprising because I expected him to beat 8 or 9 Tenpai Dragons and almost no other decks. Because this deck seems really great into Tenpai Dragon but not that strong against the other decks in the format. So here we go, reasoning, and the opponent called the correct level, level 2. And we hit backcheck straight from the top, which is super unfortunate. It means we can see only the top 3 cards and get 0 trap mills with the reasoning. So just set for pass and the Linkuribo. Let's see how the opponent can deal with that. So Dark Backing Beast, and then Chaos Summoning Beast, and then Sprite Elf. And here he goes, backcheck, alright. So we hit a Marella. And then Spirit Gates, chain Olino, pop the Spirit Gates. And currently no Paleos in the graveyard that we could chain, so we just wait for the opponent to commit something to the board. For example, Sprite Elf, and then Grave Skirmer, and then Trap Trick. Maxi, sure, we chain Marella. But keep in mind, the Paleos are once per chain, so we cannot chain the same Paleo twice in one chain to give the opponent one less Maxi draw. So we have to give the opponent one Maxi draw at least, and then the rumor, not chaining a Paleo here, the opponent sets one and then passes the turn. In the end phase we got transaction rollback into Hope for Escape. And now Hope for Escape should be draw 2 in the next turn. Unless we can halve the life points again. But Hope for Escape, opponent chains caught by the grave to prevent a Paleo summon, sure. And now Lean, return transaction rollback, and another scoop, whoa! I did not expect Yubel to scoop so fast, because this deck was the best deck in the previous season and now it's looking completely terrible against Paleo. Anyways, here we are in the next game and the opponent chooses to go second, that means it's Tenpai Dragon. So we start with Laundry to bet an Ash Blossom, get hit with Gamma, but not with Ash. Alright. And now reasoning, the opponent called level 2. Smart Tenpai Dragon player. Anyways, we get to resolve the reasoning and we mill a couple spells and traps, and reasoning resolving is extremely nasty because we could hit Rise to Full Height, and if we mill Rise to Full Height, the Tenpai Dragon is completely fucked. So we mill a couple Paleos and the Needlebug Nest and then Balance of Judgment. So a couple useful traps that we could copy with transaction rollback, and then the Black God Loves, and then Rise to Full Height, and then transaction rollback. And now the Laundry, but the damage has been done already, so here we have transaction rollback, which can copy Hope for Escape. We get drawled, sure, just prevents the tune, but we have still Soldier Dragons and 3 traps and Rise to Full Height. That should be more than enough to stop Tenpai Dragon completely. So opponent goes on summoning. So the Chandra, discard 1, and then special summon Chandra, Marella, chain Ash Blossom, sure, Fiend's Griefing, and then we chain Paleo from the graveyard. And then backcheck F, look at the top 3. And then set a Lean from the deck. Lean return transaction rollback. Chain Dynamicious. And now rollback. Copy the rumor. And the Tenpai Dragon player is forced to set every Fire Dragon because of the field spell. Fantastic. I talked about this ruling in my last video and here you can see it in action. And this is why the rumor is so nice against Tenpai Dragon, especially when they have the field spell face up. And now after completely cooking Tenpai Dragon, here we are in the next game. He was able to go first again, but the opening hand doesn't look that good, so we drew into Elemental Burst, which is the brick of this deck that we don't want to see in our opening hand. Fortunately, he drew Dynamishes, which can discard some bricks, but the opponent is a Majespecter, which have protection against targeting and destruction, so we cannot target the Majespecter monsters. Fiend's Grieving, okay, send the backcheck, and then backcheck, look at the top 3 cards, and then get hit with an Ash Blossom, which is rough. And now he has on top deck the card that he intended to set, which was a Canadia, but unfortunately it's Majespecter and Canadia is supposed to be dead unless the opponent summons a monster that we can book. Now we can book this one and prevent a link summon, for example Electromite. And another Majespecter quick play spell, we chain the Blackwood Gloves to prevent Bubuku. So even though Paleo is not making any serious progress, we can at least prevent the opponent from setting up by preventing Bubuku. And then just set one pass. Yeah, and now it's getting a little bit rougher for Paleo, because the opponent can go into the link and then set up Pendulum summons. We have the Dynamishes for the link monster and then can chain a Paleo. But the opponent is still gaining lots of resources and should be able to outgrind Paleo in the long run. So scale effect and then Valence word. Okay, that is pretty new. I haven't seen Valence cards in Majespecter yet, but it makes sense because we can search field spells with this one. And now we search Majesty Pegasus. And now the Rumor, chain Paleo, chain Battles of Judgment. Alright, 3 draws, 3 Paleos, not sure if this is going to be good enough. Finally, the opponent has access to Bubuku and the opponent can Pendulum summon. And now, with Pendulum summoning every single turn, Majespecter should be able to outgrind Paleo. So battle phase, attack. And the Majespecter player set up a Dinoster, and the Dinoster protects the monsters in the scales. So we cannot go Elemental Burst, nuke everything including the scales. The scales will be protected. And also Pendulum monsters on the field. But the Majespecters are already protected by their own effects. So Dynamishes on the Dinoster and Dynamishes from the graveyard. And then backcheck gets hit with a Called by, but we can just chain the effect. Oh, it's the opponent's turn and the opponent can respond with Tempest. Yeah, I don't think it was worth to use 2 cards on one single backcheck, so the opponent has to be really scared of some nasty trap cards that we could excavate. But I think the psychological threat of backcheck is always bigger than the actual threat of hitting a good trap card. So here we go, rollback into the Rumor, set everything, but the opponent has Majespecter Wind. And Kirin is an actual interruption against Paleo, so even though the monsters are unaffected, we can just bounce as a quick effect and this could interrupt Paleo summons from the graveyard. And now Lean, return the rollback, Kirin bounce, and we prevent one Paleo summon with the Kirin. And now draw phase. He topped deck Grass? Whoa! And now Grass could change the game completely. So he keeps milling a bunch of cards, it could be 28 or 33, so tons of mills with Grass, and we hit a backcheck, we hit another rollback, and then rollback, copy Elemental Burst, pop everything. Whoa! That was actually kinda sick. So even though the Majespecters are protected by booking them first with the Rumor and then going for the Elemental Burst, we can nuke the entire field. But the opponent has the Fox on the field that we cannot book, but the opponent summoned another Majesty Pegasus that we can book and now Rise to Full Light just to survive. Not sure if the Rise to Full Light was actually needed, but better try to survive instead of blundering a game that could be a potential win. And then transaction rollback into Hope for Escape for 3 new cards, and we have a 4th new card which is the Needlebug Nest, and then Tune, return rollback, set free, pass. Alright. But even though we nuked the entire board with Elemental Burst, Paleo doesn't seem to be in a winning position yet. So rollback again on the Rumor because we cannot pop the Majespecter monsters with Elemental Burst, which is so rough for this deck. So Needlebug Nest, chain Dynamishes, and now Majespecter gets to search the trap. And then Rise to Full Light, Canadia, and then Rise to Full Light on Dynamishes. Okay, surviving another turn, but I have no idea how Paleo could win this game realistically, because Majespecter is going to outgrind the deck soon or later. So Kirin again, and as I mentioned before, Kirin is an actual interruption against Paleozoic because of the quick effect bounce. But Majespecter lost? How? Time limit? Whoa, I did not expect Majespecter to lose because of the time limit. But overall, that was a fantastic game. Despite being in a disadvantageous position, he was not giving up and still trying to fight until the very end, until the Majespecter player lost to time limit. Really well played. And here we have Barrier Statue set 3 pass. What is that? Which deck is summoning Barrier Statue with set 3 pass? So we countered it with set 5 pass. And now Dynamicious on the statue. And then set 1 pass. Alright, and now hope for escape. Set 1 pass. And then in the end phase, welcome Labrynth. We can just chain Dynamicious. So it seems to be Labrynth, and this matchup is really interesting because every time Labrynth activates a trap, the Paleo player gets 1 free special summon from the grave, but also every time Paleo activates a trap card, the opponent could just set a trap directly with lovely Labrynth. Anyways, we just book the Barrier Statue and then rise to full light on Dynamicious, chain Paleo, and then chain Dogmatica Punishment, dumping the Entis, and now Entis can pop the Hope for Escape, which was dead, so we cannot get advantage from that. And now all we have left is Balance of Judgment. The opponent chains the big welcome Labrynth. So drawing 3 cards, but is it going to be enough? And then in the new chain, Lady pop 1 random card in the hand, which turns out to be Tune, but we have a second in the hand already. Draw 2 and then return Dynamicious. Set 4 pass. In the end phase, welcome Labrynth, Lady, set Dogmatica Punishment. And then Ariana, search a second Lady. And then second Lady. Alright. And now a third Barrier Statue? Okay, that's kinda interesting. Never mind, he bounced the Barrier Statue and then normal summoned the same Barrier Statue again. And now Dogmatica Punishment, we chain Rise to Full Height to dodge the battle phase. And then chain Lady to set another big welcome. And now Lovely, Entis, Ariana. So a couple triggers on the Labrynth player's side. But we have transaction rollback. Into Balance of Judgment. Draw 9! Draw 9! Holy shit, that is so broken. Even though the Labrynth player cleared the entire board, we are not out of the game yet. And now Soldier Dragons. And Reasoning. And now it's time to cook. The opponent called level 2, which is the correct level, but we hit a backcheck and we can summon this one for Linkuriboh and then Black Goat on Lovely. But anyways, Ariana, and then we go set 5 pass. Yeah, so really interesting game so far. And then battle phase, Fiend Comedian, no way he's playing that, no way. But actually this card may be really good in Paleo because we benefit from milling, but we also benefit from banishing the opponent's entire graveyard. And now rollback on Elemental Burst, boom! Whoa, that was absolutely well played. So we go Daruma first and then Elemental Burst, and this way we bypass protection against destruction by card effects, for example the effect of Lady Labrynth. And then backcheck, set another Paleo, return transaction rollback, chain Paleo from the graveyard. And now Paleo is actually in the driving scene. Opponent goes Daruma for no reason? Are you fucking kidding me? Why on earth do you go Daruma against Paleozoic? This just gives them a free body. And also, by booking them, they go to the graveyard when they leave the field. And now we can go into Cambroster and then Cambroster to get rid of the opponent's back row. Then Olino, pop the last remaining back row. And then Scoop. Whoa, that was absolutely sick how he came back, outplayed and destroyed the Labrynth player. And here you can see his final decklist again. And I think this was a great showcase for the power of Paleozoic in this format and a proof that this deck could also work without Time-Tearing Morganite, which is an ultra rare that you might not want to craft if you are on budget like me. Anyways, I think Paleozoic may have a really good spot in the metagame right now because of the sheer number of Tenpai Dragon players. And this deck completely hard counters Tenpai Dragon. So yeah, if you like this deck and trap decks in general, feel free to try it out yourself. And if you like my style of content, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. That helps me a lot. Anyways, see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye.